All right, there's one question of the multiple of 3x. So this was basically an example. We are at the moment working mostly with a multiple of 3x. We've done plenty of calculations on what is actually the cheapest multiple we can offer based on the high risk of an early stage business. It might vary a little bit on the application and also the growth path and the speed of growth we will see at the company. And sorry, to add to that, we're also working on incentives to basically incentivize applicants to buy back their equity sooner if they want to at probably like a lower price. Then there's another question and feedback, very clear and impressive investment opportunity. My question is, how do you determine how much to invest in a business? So for us, first of all, of course, we look at your investment need, but then usually we also look at how much revenues have you made so far, not only last year, because last year has influenced many of us as entrepreneurs quite heavily, but we usually are looking at a track record of the revenues over a total period of 12 months to make a decision on how much to invest, or basically how much funding to offer you. The 5% is on the gross profit. Sorry, there was a question. Is the 5% on the net profit or gross profit or total revenue? The 5% is basically on the total revenue, sorry. So we're using top line revenue for the 5%, because that's the easiest to compare and to make it as standardized as possible across different companies, because the moment where you start talking about net profit, gross profit, what pays into that, what doesn't, it gets more complicated, and we basically want to have an option that is fair to everyone. Do we have any other questions?
Yeah, so we have questions in the Q&A tab. So Aliyu Salisu says, why I cannot submit my application until my co-founders send theirs. Yes, it is important that your co-founders actually do send in their responses to the application, essentially because the business is run by all of you as founders. And this is really critical for us to make a complete assessment of the founders and of the business in whole.
So there is a question, what happens when an organization is unable to pay fully back within the period you agreed on? So we're not agreeing on a period beforehand. It's just that in most cases, we are basically calculating with a payback period of 8 to 10 years, but this really depends on the company.
I should add that we work with you. So we're invested in you as an early stage business. So we're invested in your growth and your ability to pay back. So if within 2 to 3 years, 4 years down the line, we're seeing that the business model isn't working, we have all sorts of resources. If you've joined our earlier webinars, we've talked about essentially we create a dashboard for you as an entrepreneur within our platform. That dashboard gives you access to resources that help you build your business and grow to the next level. And we're collecting data the entire time. If our data is showing that the business is unable to make a payment within the time frame that has been pre-described, then we work together to figure out how can we get there. We're invested in you, we're your partners in this business. Although remotely and automated, we're still together. So, you know, the 10 years will not come and then we wouldn't be surprised. We'll work and we'll help you build your business to that level.
Very well put. Thank you, Esther. Then there's one last question. Average time to make a decision with your process, assuming all documents are in order. So at the moment, we're investing in a cohort, approach. So basically, our applications at the moment are open until the end of September. And before that, we're not making any decisions to give everyone a chance, basically give everyone the same chances. We'll then we're basically then reviewing all the applications over the course of October, and then expect starting to reach out to you with an investment offer or basically feedback to your application at some point in November.
Okay, I think we need to move to the questions that are in the chat box.
I think the first one we haven't answered is, I'm a solo founder, can I apply? Yes, of course. We're very happy to have solo founders apply, so please go ahead and apply. Are you open to 10% of monthly revenue with a lower multiple? That is something we have, we basically had different options before. So far, our experience is that a 10% basically revenue share is too high for most companies. So at the moment, we're not doing that, but you're always free to increase your monthly payments. And as said before, we are working on incentives to lower the multiple if you're paying back sooner than expected. Oh, thank you very much for the compliment, Sydney. Then your question is, since you're taking equity stake with the RBF model and for purpose of the cap table, what type of shares does the company have to issue to uncap? Yes, I think this is something we have been discussing with the lawyers back and forth. And we're still basically clarifying the last bits and pieces on that to make it as easy as possible for you to transfer the shares and to also get it back. But in general, like, we don't want any ownership, any control or anything. We also don't need any voting rights. So we're just looking at what are kind of like the best ways to structure that across the 4 different countries we're investing in at the moment. Do you have anything to add to that, Isa?
I would say, you know, by the time the applications close, we will have a complete answer to this. It's currently, you know, so definitely, you know, we're considering between preference and ordinary shares, and if we will work with the founder shares or company shares. So it's a conversation right now. We're trying to take it from the founder's angle, what works best for a founder, because our focus really is on investing in businesses, growing them, but also being really supportive to founders as a whole. So we should be able to get back to you on that within the next couple of weeks.
Thank you. Then there's a question, what if I need funding that is 10x my current business worth for the company to acquire machinery to grow to another growth model? Is it acceptable? I mean, it kind of like depends on how you determine your current business worth. But as said before, we're looking at your revenues, and we look at your revenues and then we see how much funding we think you can digest at this moment, and what that means for the 5% of rev share every month. If you're really on this kind of like high growth path, where you need kind of like a 10x multiple of your current revenues, then you're probably more suitable for talking to other investors, like more traditional VC investors. Then another question, when does the first installment fall due? We are starting pretty much rightly after the investment, once everything is set up, to start building our relationship as early as possible. And for us, it's also important to have access to your data to see if you're paying back in order to give you the best support that we can. Then the second question is something we've answered already. Also the last one, compulsory to have a co-founder? No. Please apply if you're a solo founder. Don't hesitate. I think we're good, right? Are there any more questions? Okay. What kind of reporting do you expect from the entrepreneurs post-investment? What's the frequency of these reports? Do you expect to get viewing rights to the bank accounts? Very good question. So basically what we're doing is, again, we're trying to keep the load for you as low as possible. So all of you, once we have invested in you, you will have access to your own personal dashboard. And that dashboard is where everything happens. This is where you report. This is where you get access to resources. This is where you get access to training programs. This is also where you're building your track record. And the first step that we do is that we're connecting your dashboard to your accounting tool. So we need everyone to use an accounting tool. Also because this is something we truly believe in, that kind of like really being able to run good accounts is quite important to success. And then the dashboard is basically drawing the data directly from the accounting tool. So you don't need to have to upload a PDF or put the accounting data back in. And we do have monthly, very, very high level reporting though on other things that are not visible from your accounts, like things are, have you hired any employees, how's the business doing, etc. At the moment, we do not expect to get viewing rights to the bank accounts. I'm just gonna
just mention that at the point of application, if by chance you're doing manual bookkeeping, that does not disqualify you from making the application. Just put in your details into the platform, into the application process. However, we will need you to migrate from manual bookkeeping onto a software tool, an accounting tool going forward. So that would need to be, something that you're fully aware of as a requirement from us.
So going back to the Q&A, there's a question from Gaddafi. Do you have any geographical restrictions when it comes to companies you invest in? Yes, we do. At the moment, we're investing in Kenya, Uganda, Rwanda, Nigeria. However, we're planning to expand our scope significantly over the next years. So we're asking everyone who is interested in what we're doing, please go ahead, apply already now. And to everyone who applies at this moment, we will also give you access to this dashboard I mentioned before. So you can already kind of like start building your track record there to get a head start when we're opening up 2 countries you're located in. Then there's another question from Paul. Is the funding for an existing business more than 7 years that wants to add a new product line? I mean, in general, we are targeting early stage businesses, but also there it's basically you can have a business that has been registered for 7 years, but you only have been in operation for a year. So this is something we need to look at. Esther, you want to do the honor of the last question?
I think for Ali, who is asking, is it possible to submit his application, if the co-founders have not submitted theirs, or their section of it, because it seems that they cannot complete their application, let alone submit it. Now, honestly, Ali, what I would say is, one is to really prompt your co-founders to complete their section. However, if you're finding a challenge with that, I'll also encourage you to email us at support@unconventional.capital and raise that, and we'll have one of our team members get back to you on the way forward.
I'm just quickly gonna put in the email in the chat. But I mean, in general, this is on purpose, right? I mean, we need all of your co-founders to go through the same steps at the beginning of the application than you. And so it only makes sense for us that the overall application can only be submitted once everyone has basically done their part. We have another question here. My company is starting operations and earning revenue this year, although we were registered in 2018. Are we still eligible for application and funding? So in general, we want to see that there is some revenue traction happening. So an indication is, did you have kind of like steady or kind of like revenue growth this year, or maybe even over a period of 12 months, a little bit in 2018, and now you're picking back up. So in general, we need to see that there has been some traction, even if your company has started earlier than that, before you started operations.
I think we're done.